Well, tonight I'm gonna tell you something that's probably gonna sound made up. Honestly, I wish it was. You probably won't believe half of what I'm about to say. But trust me, this story only gets worse. I didn't take the job because I was brave. I took it because my bank account had $11 in it. That's the truth. People always think there has to be some deeper reason behind decisions like that. Curiosity, greed, a death wish. Nah. Most of the time, people walk into terrible places for much simpler reasons. Because life gets expensive. Because overdue bills pile up faster than paychecks. Because eventually survival starts sounding more reasonable than fear. My name's Carter Vale. I'm 38 years old, divorced, and for about 6 months straight, I lived off gas station sandwiches and whatever free coffee I could steal from hotel lobbies. I used to install security systems for small businesses, cameras, motion sensors, alarm wiring, that kind of thing. It wasn't exciting work, but it paid enough. Then I lost my temper. Funny thing is, it wasn't even some dramatic movie moment. No screaming, no fist fight, no shattered glass. Just one bad week. One rich client accused me of tampering with footage after an employee got injured at his restaurant. My boss pulled me into the office. I was exhausted, angry, embarrassed, and tired of everybody talking to me like I was something they scraped off their shoe. So I told him exactly what I thought of him. Apparently, honesty becomes hostile behavior when the other guy signs the checks. That was the end of that. After that, things unraveled faster than they should have. My wife had already moved out months earlier. The apartment got quieter, then dirtier, then smaller somehow. You ever notice that? How depression changes the size of a room? Anyway, a couple of weeks before all this started, I was sitting in a laundromat at 1 in the morning because my apartment building's machines were broken again. I remember there was this little kid asleep across 3 plastic chairs while his mother folded towels. A game show was playing on a mounted TV with the volume too low to hear. And taped to the vending machine beside me was a sheet of paper. Night caretaker wanted. 1 shift. Cash paid at sunrise. Must complete full property check. Do not leave early. That was it. No company logo. No phone number. No email. Just an address. I stared at that paper for a long time. I should have realized something was wrong right there. Legitimate businesses don't advertise jobs beside broken detergent dispensers. But all I could think was, cash. The address led me to a place called Blue Lantern Storage. It sat at the edge of the city, where everything starts looking half abandoned. There was an old strip mall nearby with empty windows and a liquor store that somehow still stayed open. The facility itself was bigger than I expected. Rows and rows of storage units, metal doors, chain link fencing. Overhead, the security lights hummed softly. At first glance, it looked normal. That was probably the worst part. I parked near the office around 11:40 p.m. There was another car there, an old white sedan, engine running. A guy sat inside smoking. He looked maybe 60. Heavy coat, gray beard, the kind of face that looked permanently tired. When I got out of my car, he rolled his window halfway down. "You the new guy?" he asked. "Guess so," I said. He nodded once. "You got a cigarette?" I handed him one from my glove box pack. He lit it slowly. Didn't thank me, just stared out toward the rows of units. "You ever work night security before?" he asked. "Not really," I said. Another nod. Then he said something that stuck with me. "Don't let the place get too quiet." I laughed a little. "What does that mean?" He shrugged. "You'll see." Then he drove away. I watched his taillights disappear down the road. To this day, I still don't know whether he was warning me or apologizing. The office door was unlocked. Inside smelled like old coffee, mildew, and hot dust from an overworked heater. No receptionist, no manager, nobody. There was just a lantern sitting on the counter, blue glass with real flame. Beside it sat a yellow envelope with my name written on it, Carter. Inside the envelope, a map of the property, a ring of keys, a clipboard, and a folded note. The note read, "Walk the marked route. Check every listed unit. Do not open unmarked units. Do not answer anyone who says your name twice. Return the blue lantern before sunrise." At the bottom, written in smaller handwriting, "If the lantern goes out, run." I remember staring at that last line, then laughing. Not because it was funny, because my body already knew something was wrong and my brain hadn't caught up yet. The clipboard listed 7 units: B14, C03, D19, F07, G22, H04, K11. 7 checks. That was all. Simple. I grabbed the lantern. The metal handle was freezing cold. Not metaphorically. Actually cold. Like it had been sitting in a freezer. Outside, the wind had picked up. The rows of units looked different now. Longer. The spaces between the security lights felt wider than before. I remember thinking the place suddenly looked less like a business and more like a cemetery with garage doors. Unit B14 was close to the front. Regular storage unit, regular lock, regular metal door. I unlocked it. Inside were cardboard boxes, Christmas decorations, folded lawn chairs, a treadmill. Normal stuff. I actually relaxed a little. See? I thought. Just some weird old owner with a sense of humor. Then I noticed something. There was no dust. Anywhere. Not on the shelves. Not on the boxes. Not on the floor. That's strange in a storage unit. Storage units collect dust, like lungs collect smoke. I crouched near one box labeled winter clothes. The tape sealing it was fresh. Too fresh. Like somebody had packed it earlier that day. I remember thinking that didn't make much sense. Most storage units smell abandoned, forgotten. But this one felt maintained, like somebody still came here regularly. I brushed a little dust off the side of the box. That's when something inside shifted. Very small movement. Cardboard, rubbing softly against cardboard. I froze and waited. Nothing happened. I actually laughed under my breath a little. "Mouse," I muttered. Then I noticed the unit had gone completely silent. No buzzing lights. No wind outside. Nothing. And in that silence I heard it. A soft knock from inside one of the boxes. I stared at it. Then, another soft knock again from inside the other boxes. Not loud. Careful. Like whoever was inside didn't want to attract attention. I slowly backed toward the door. Then a voice whispered from inside the unit. "Carter." The voice sounded familiar. Not enough to identify, just enough to hurt. A second later, "Carter." Twice. I shut the door immediately, locked it, marked it clear, and walked away faster than I wanted to admit. Not ran. Not yet. Unit C03 was where things stopped pretending. The unit was under a dead security light. The lantern flame bent sideways as I approached. That bothered me more than it should have. I unlocked the door. Warm air rolled out. House warm, not storage unit warm. Inside was a living room, a real one. Couch, TV, family photos, a lamp glowing in the corner, rain tapping softly against windows that absolutely should not have existed. And sitting on the couch were 3 mannequins. Mother, father, little boy, all smiling. The TV hissed with static. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds before saying, "Nope." The little boy mannequin turned its head toward me. Slowly. Then, the static on the TV shifted. Words formed across the screen. "Check the battery." A smoke detector chirped overhead. I actually remember getting irritated. Not scared. Annoyed. Because somehow replacing batteries felt more insulting than horrifying. There was a stool beside the couch. I climbed it carefully. The whole time I could feel the mannequins watching me. Not moving. Just paying attention. I replaced the battery. The chirping stopped. Silence. Then, the mannequins clapped. Soft plastic hands. I climbed down very slowly. The mother mannequin lifted one arm and pointed toward a candy bowl on the coffee table. Inside sat a single wrapped caramel and a human tooth. I stared at it. Then, for some reason I still don't understand, I said, "Appreciate it." Immediately, all three heads snapped toward me. I felt my stomach drop because I'd spoken. Then I remembered the rule. They hadn't used my name. The room stayed still. The father mannequin slowly raised a remote. The TV switched from static to old home video footage. A birthday party. People laughing. Then the footage glitched. Every person on the screen suddenly stared directly at the camera. At me. I left. Not dramatically. I just turned around and walked out while every instinct in my body screamed to run. Outside, the cold air hit me hard. I realized I was sweating. I stood there for a minute beside the unit, trying to steady my breathing. That's when I noticed the property had gotten quieter. Too quiet. No traffic. No distant highway. No insects. Nothing. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Then somewhere far away, metal slammed. One storage door. Then another. Then another. Like something was moving through the rows, I suddenly remembered the old man saying, "Don't let the place get too quiet." Unit D-19 sat near the back fence. There was duct tape across the door, with words written in black marker. "Be polite." I remember almost laughing again. Almost. Inside was a diner, full size, chrome counters, red stools, coffee smell, old radio music. An old waitress stood behind the counter, drying a glass with a towel. She looked normal enough that for half a second, I genuinely thought maybe I was having some kind of breakdown. Then I noticed the ceiling. Water dripped slowly from it. Not rainwater. Dark water. Lake water. The waitress smiled. "You here for the sugar, sweetheart?" I didn't answer right away. Something about her eyes looked wrong, too reflective, like wet stones. She pointed toward the tables. Every sugar dispenser was empty. I found a box of packets behind the counter, so I started refilling them. And the whole time I kept thinking, why am I doing this? That's the weirdest part. Not the monsters, the compliance, how quickly human beings adapt once they decide survival matters more than dignity. Halfway through filling the dispensers, the diner's bell rang. A man walked in. Water dripped from his coat. Then, another man came in. Then, 4 more. All soaked. All silent. They sat at the counter without looking at me. The waitress poured coffee into their cups. Black water splashed inside. One of the men turned his head slightly. "You got the time, Carter." I froze. The waitress slapped the counter hard. "Mind your manners," she snapped. The drowned man turned back around. Nobody moved after that, not even blinking. I finished the sugar as fast as I could. One packet slipped from my hand and fell beneath a booth. I crouched to grab it and saw a little girl hiding underneath. Pale, wet, hair hanging over her face. She pressed one finger to her lips, then handed me the packet. Her hand was freezing cold. I stood up slowly. The waitress smiled. "Good manners keep a man alive," she said. I left immediately. Outside the unit, I leaned against the wall, trying not to throw up. That's when I noticed something. The lantern flame was smaller, not flickering. Smaller, like the place itself was eating it. For the first time all night, I seriously considered getting in my car and driving away. Then I looked at the gas gauge hovering just above empty. And that's the part I'm not proud of. I stayed. Unit F07 should have been the easiest unit. That made it worse. Regular storage room, tools, boxes, an old bicycle, paint cans. Nothing strange. There was a sticky note on the wall. Sweep, that was it. So I swept. And while I swept, I became absolutely convinced somebody was standing directly behind me. I didn't turn around. I don't know why. Maybe instinct. Maybe fear. Maybe because part of me already knew that whatever was behind me wanted me to look. So I just kept sweeping slowly. Dust, mouse droppings, dead leaves. The entire time I could hear breathing, very soft, right behind my neck. At one point I stopped sweeping. The breathing stopped too. I started again. So did the breathing. I finished the floor in complete silence. Then I looked up. Nobody there. Just a plastic Halloween skeleton propped in a folding chair. One bony hand raised in a thumbs up. I actually laughed. A sharp, ugly laugh. The kind people make right before they cry. When I stepped back outside, I saw somebody standing at the end of the row. Security uniform, old-fashioned flashlight. Tall. Too tall, maybe. I couldn't see his face clearly. He raised one hand. I almost waved back. Then he spoke. "Carter." I stopped moving. "Carter." Twice. The lantern flame dipped low. The figure started walking toward me. Slow, dragging footsteps over gravel. I turned around and walked the other direction. Not running. Every nerve in my body wanted to run. But something deep inside me knew running would make him faster. Behind me, the dragging footsteps grew closer. I turned a corner between units. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice whispered directly beside my ear. "Good boy." Nobody was there. I nearly dropped the lantern. By the time I reached Unit G22, my hands were shaking so badly I missed the keyhole twice. There was a child's drawing taped to the door, a smiling family holding balloons. Underneath, written in crayon, "Don't wake the baby." I already hated the unit before I opened it. Inside was a nursery, pink walls, crib, rocking chair, little moon decorations hanging from the ceiling, and soft breathing coming from inside the crib. A note sat beside a music box mobile. "Wind the mobile. Do not look into the crib." Simple. I kept my eyes locked on the mobile, not the crib. The breathing changed. It became whispering. "Hungry." I reached for the crank, turned it once. The music box began playing, a tiny lullaby. The whispering stopped. Then, "Daddy?" My hand froze. I don't have children. At least, not anymore. My wife and I lost a daughter 7 years ago. Stillborn. Even now, I hate that word. Stillborn. Sounds clinical. Polite. Like grief should fit neatly inside hospital paperwork. The voice from the crib came again. "Daddy, why didn't you come?" Something inside me broke a little hearing that. Not dramatically, just a tiny crack. The kind you don't notice until later. The lantern flame guttered. Cold spread through the room. I wound the mobile faster. The lullaby grew louder. The crib started rocking gently, not by itself, Something inside was moving. Heavy movement. Wet movement. I backed away carefully. At the door, I made a mistake. There was a baby monitor on the shelf, and I looked. The screen showed the crib from above. Inside sat a mound of black hair wrapped around a porcelain doll head. The doll's eyes rolled upward toward the camera. I slammed the door, locked it, then sat on the gravel outside for maybe 5 straight minutes. Not moving, just staring at the lantern, trying very hard not to think about hospitals. That was the point where the place started getting into my head. I kept hearing things afterward. A lullaby somewhere far away. A child laughing between units. At one point, I was positive I saw tiny wet footprints crossing the gravel beside me. When I looked again, they were gone. Unit H04 was different. No creepy decorations, no weird notes, just a normal metal door. I unlocked it and found myself staring down a hotel hallway. Long green carpet, golden wallpaper, buzzing exit sign. A luggage cart waited in front of me. One suitcase sat on it. The suitcase twitched every few seconds. There was a tag attached. Room 808. I remember saying out loud, "I really don't want to do this anymore." Nobody answered. So I pushed the cart. The hallway stretched too long. Far too long. Room after room after room. At 804, I heard arguing behind a door. At 805, somebody laughed. At 806, somebody cried softly. At 807, a man whispered through the door, "Bellhop?" I kept walking. The suitcase thumped once. Hard. Something inside shifted. I reached room 808. Knocked. A voice inside said, "Leave it." I bent to set the suitcase down. That's when I saw the hand reaching through the doorway. Wedding ring. My wedding ring. The old scratched one I sold after the divorce. The hand dragged the suitcase inside. Before the door closed, I saw my ex-wife sitting on the hotel bed. Young. Tired. Holding a bundle wrapped in hospital blankets. She looked at me. Not angry. That would have been easier. Just disappointed. Then the door shut. The hallway lights began shutting off one by one. The first fluorescent flickered violently before dying with a sharp electrical crack. Then the next one went dark. Then another farther down the corridor. Darkness rolled slowly toward me through the hallway. That's when I finally ran. Behind me, doors opened. Voices filled the hallway. "Carter? Carter? Carter?" Too many. The lantern flame nearly died. I burst out of the unit and collapsed onto the gravel outside. The flame was tiny now, barely alive. I cupped my hand around it. "Come on," I whispered. For some reason, my voice cracked when I said it. The flame steadied slightly. Just enough. 6 units done, 1 left. Unit K11 sat at the very back of the property. It passed the RV lot, the broken fencing, and the rows of abandoned units. No security lights worked back there. The darkness felt thick, like walking underwater. Unit K11 had no number painted on it, just a brass lantern symbol. The final key fit perfectly. Inside was my old apartment. Not similar. Exactly mine. The stained ceiling, the crooked bookshelf, the cheap couch, the smell of lavender detergent that my wife used to buy. Moving boxes sat near the wall. Divorce boxes. At the kitchen table sat a man. Me. Not a monster version. Not undead. Just me. Maybe 5 years younger. He looked tired. I hated him immediately. "You look awful," he said. I stayed near the doorway. "What is this?" I asked. He shrugged. "Probably the part you've been avoiding." The apartment flickered. For a second, I saw flashes. Me yelling at my boss, ignoring phone calls from my father before he died, drinking alone in parking lots. My wife was crying in the bathroom while I pretended not to hear. The hospital hallway. Always the hospital hallway. The other me slid a note across the table. Remove what does not belong. That's the task? I asked. That's always the task, he said. The lantern flame leaned toward him. His shadow stretched too far across the floor. You can leave all this here, he said quietly. All the guilt, all the grief, all the ugly parts. He smiled. I'll keep them for you. For one horrible second, that sounded good. That's the part people don't understand about grief. You don't want healing. Not really. You want removal. You want somebody to cut the pain out of you like a tumor. The other Carter stood. You're tired, he said. Yeah, I was. Still am. The apartment around us darkened. Shapes began gathering beyond the walls. The mannequins, the drowned men, the waitress, the nursery thing. Watching and waiting. You don't belong here, I said. The other Carter smiled wider. Neither do you. Then he lunged. We hit the floor hard. The lantern rolled away. His hands wrapped around my throat. And that was the worst part. Not the strength, not the violence, the familiarity. He fought exactly like me. Every move I made, he anticipated. I grabbed a screwdriver from beneath the table. One of mine. Old yellow handle. I drove it into his side. He gasped with my voice. That nearly made me stop. Nearly. The lantern flame shrank. The apartment started collapsing around us, walls peeling away into darkness. The other Carter grabbed my shirt. You'll still be you afterward, he hissed. I believed him. That was the problem. I grabbed the lantern, swung it into his face. Blue glass exploded. Fire poured across him. Not normal fire. Cold, blue fire. He screamed, and suddenly the apartment vanished. Everything vanished. I was standing inside an empty storage unit. Concrete floor, metal walls, my own breathing. The lantern sat in my hand again, perfectly intact. Flame steady. Unit K-11 was empty. I marked the final checkbox on the clipboard. Outside, dawn had started bleeding into the sky. When I got back to the office, locker 12 was waiting. Inside sat an envelope, $5,000 cash, and another note. Night caretaker. Available shifts, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I should have burned it. I know that. I should have taken the money and never looked back. Instead, I sat in the office chair until sunrise fully reached the windows. The blue lantern finally went out beside me. Not dramatically, just a soft little breath. Here's the thing. I know how insane this story sounds. Maybe you think I had some kind of breakdown. Maybe you think I imagined everything after the nursery. Honestly, some nights I wonder too. But my rent got paid, my car got fixed, and for the first time in years, I slept. No hospital dreams, no crying, no hallway, just silence. So yeah, I went back on Wednesday, then Friday, and the Monday after that. The units change. The rules change too. Last week, I had to polish mirrors that reflected people standing behind me. Yesterday, I fed quarters into a washing machine until it stopped crying. And tonight? Tonight, there's a new unit on the route. Unit L13. No listed task, no key attached, just one sentence written across the clipboard. Bring the black lantern back. I don't know what that means. And honestly, I don't want to. But the pay is good. The hours are quiet. And after a while, You stop noticing how strange a place is once it starts feeling familiar.